In this quick look, we look at the LG G3 versus the Sony Xperia Z2. In terms of design, both of these smartphones retain quite a bit from their previous iterations, more so for the Xperia Z2, but it does have a few subtle changes and refinements overall. The Z2 boasts the angular design that is something you'd pretty much only get with Sony devices. The all-glass design, the signature Sony button layout with the silver power button and dedicated camera button, and of course the dust and water resistance features all make a return with the Z2. On the other hand, the G3 moves away from the glossy plastic of the G2 to a still plastic but beautiful metallic finish back cover. LG's push towards a bezel-less phone continues here, with the ultra-thin bezels and thin top and bottom borders allowing for a relatively sleek device. The rear button layout is back as well, but is a lot flatter this time around, but still has a nice refined feel with a more meaty click to the buttons. In terms of dimensions, the G3 is actually a touch shorter and just a smidge wider than the Z2, which is certainly impressive when you realize that the G3 has a 5.5-inch screen and is one of the best handling ones of that size. With similar sizes, the handling experience is actually what you would kind of expect then. One-handed use is definitely pushing it on either device more often than not, especially on the G3, but this is definitely something that you're going to have to get used to in either phone anyway. So the design aspect is definitely up to personal taste, but we do have to say that you're getting a beautiful premium phone no matter which one of these you choose. Sony's improvements upon the Xperia Z2 display comes in at a 5.2-inch IPS LCD display with a 1080p resolution, resulting in a pixel density of 424 pixels per inch. Sony managed to address a lot of the issues that plagued the previous versions before the Z2, now offering a fantastic display experience with good brightness and viewing angles. But as good as that may be, the edge does have to be given to the G3 courtesy of a great 5.5-inch IPS LCD display with a resolution of Quad HD that's 2560 by 1440 and a pixel density resulting in 534 pixels per inch. The signature brightness and great viewing angles of the G3 screen are available here, and the display, which is in a lot of ways the hero feature of this device, really does shine through. In terms of performance, the G3 and the Z2 feature the best processing package currently available, with the Snapdragon 801 clocked in at 2.5 GHz for the G3 and 2.3 GHz for the Z2, backed by the Adreno 330 and 2 GB of RAM for the G3 and 3 for the Xperia Z2. As you would expect, performance is about as smooth as it could ever be, helped along with the minimalistic UI of Sony's device, and in this case the revamped and far smoother software experience found on the new version of LG's flagship. On the hardware front, a lot remains the same, with both of these phones offering internal storage that is further expandable via micro SD cards of up to 128 GB. The G3 also does have a 32 GB version available, which will have the added benefit of 3 GB of RAM, so that is a bit of a change up there. The full suite of connectivity options also make their way here, with everything ranging from Bluetooth to NFC to LTE mobile network connections. But when it comes to the speakers, Sony has changed things up a bit by introducing front-facing speakers on the Z2. The quality is quite good, but it's not mind-blowing, but it definitely gets quite loud and has quite a bit of clarity to them. The speakers of the G3 remain at the back, and I wasn't able to really test them, but they should still be a little bit more impressive than what was found in previous LG iterations. The Xperia Z2 does pack the larger 3200 mAh battery compared to the 3000 mAh unit of the G3, and considering that the G3 needs to power a larger display and a higher resolution, the battery life out of the Z2 is probably going to be a bit better, at least on paper. It's entirely possible that LG's optimizations will still make battery life on the G3 at least average, so we're going to have to see what the battery life tests are like once we get our hands on a review unit. When it comes to the cameras, the Xperia Z2 features the same 20.7 megapixel camera of the Z1, with some improvements across the board. Now, talking about the app, you get a ton of new features like time shift, 4K, and selective focus modes. The picture quality is quite good, without any of the smudginess in the dark areas that we originally saw in the Z1, definitely improved here. The level of grain is still pretty high though, and sharpness could use a little bit more refinement, but the colors are captured quite well and you still get a pretty good photo. What is really kind of a downer, at least for me in the Z2, is that you're limited to 8 megapixels to be able to use all that it has to offer, and the 20.7 megapixel photos are really just a novelty more than ultimately useful for plenty of users out there. The G3 features a camera setup that is quite similar to what we found on the G Pro 2, with a 13 megapixel rear shooter with OIS+. As we've seen before, this camera should perform quite well, and the newly added autofocus laser should also make a big difference in allowing for quick autofocus, especially when compared to the G2. When it comes to the software, Sony does believe in keeping things pretty simple and elegant, and that's something we really like about the Xperia UI. It is pretty much a stock-like experience with Sony quintessential style and their own additions like the Walkman, the Gallery, and the small apps. Ultimately, what we like about the Sony UI is that when you keep it simple, you keep it fast, and they happen to do that quite well on the Xperia Z2. On the other hand, LG is kind of looking to go in that direction, it seems, as they're doing away with the more bloated operating system from before, and now they're leaning towards a flatter, smoother, cleaner, and therefore faster interface. LG still packs a ton of features in though, like the Q-Slide apps, the multitasking with the multi-window, the knock code, which we saw originally in the G Pro 2, and new additions like LG's own version of the Google Now card system. It's like a concierge service with a lot of smart abilities that allow you to get your information in a nice and clean way, a revamped keyboard, and even the ability to use a quick circle feature that can be seen inside of the quick circle case that you can get as an accessory. And so there you have it for this quick look at the LG G3 versus the Sony Xperia Z2. These are two of the best phones out there, and then again, all of the flagships are looking really great this year. And once we get our hands on the review unit of the LG G3, we will be pitting that phone against all of the flagships, including the Z2, in more in-depth coverage. So stay tuned to Android Authority for all of that and future coverage of the LG G3, because we are your source for all things Android.